Hello, good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our Logical Talk 22nd. I know it's the time of the year when a lot of people are busy towards the year and closing, and again, specifically the time of the month. It's the fag end of the month, but I'm sure that the time which we are going to spend today discussing this specific topic is going to be very interesting. So by the time more people join, I'll just take a couple of minutes to do a customary introduction about Lawrbit. While most of you are already aware about what we do, um, but for a quick understanding of everyone, Lawbit is a leading regulatory technology player in the market. We've been working in this space for almost 12 plus years. This the software which we offer and the services which we offer are all around regulatory compliances, risk, litigations, and audit. Our prime offering is called GCMS Global Compliance Management Solution, and I'm sure many of you must be a user of our GCMS solution, which is offered to the large enterprises, smaller ones, startups. It helps you keep a check on your regulatory compliance statuses across all laws, and that too not just in India but globally as well. So this, as a part of the solution, we provide you coverage around 70 plus countries. Today, we have more than 450 plus entities who are using a soft solution, 2,500 plus locations mapped, and we have a team of around 90 odd professionals, legal and tech professionals who are working behind the scene to build the regulatory data and keep it updated for you. If you are not our software user, I recommend very highly that you should go and subscribe to a regulatory update mailer, which will come to you every Monday morning. So just go on to the website and subscribe for that. And if you need any form further modern discussion, our teams are available. We can have a quick chat on that. So before we jump on, let me the discussion today. Let me just have a quick introduction about our speakers today. So I have with me Mr. Krishna Kumar. Um, he's a VP and Head of Regulatory Affairs, Compliance Policy and Advocacy for ITC Limited Food Division. Krishna comes with around more than 28 years experience. He's worked across some of the leading brands in the space, and he's very passionate about the food safety, quality controls, and meeting the industry standards, the regulatory expectation, regulatory standards. He's worked closely with the regulators also in understanding their expectation from the businesses. And again, with such a wide experience, he today understand the food business, how it has evolved over so many decades. Because if I look at on the last uh, 30 years approximately since Krishna you are in business, I'm sure the definition of food itself has changed, evolved. You know what we used to eat and what we are eating today, and the mass production which is happening, it itself has changed. And we also have Mr. Ashwin is founder and CEO of Equinix Lab. He's a national resource person for FSSAI, working with Equinix Lab and leading India food, water, and air testing and auditing laboratory. And he has consulted more than 1,000 companies on food safety compliance, employee health, safety, and he is a passionate speaker and a mentor to entrepreneurs. And I've heard a lot of talks of Ashwin. When he speaks very passionately. And Ashwin, all years looking forward to hear you on talking on the subject today. Uh, and welcome both of you, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'll reiterate how this discussion is going to be. We are going to talk about the food safety acts, the governing bodies, and just a while ago, Krishna and I were chatting and talking about the Food Safety Act. If you really ask me, because we are into regulatory business, compliance business, I think you possibly name a law, and we have a regulation mapped in our software for that. FSSAI is one of the biggest regulation and the biggest regulator in terms of the coverage. And what makes FSSAI, if FSSAI GST is very important, or RBA is very important, or MC is very important. What makes an FSSAI very more important than anyone else, any of them, is because it impacts the life of every individual. Today, whatever we are eating, we may not pay tax every day. We may not know GST. We can be okay with that. But if I don't know what I'm eating, it's not possible. We all need to know, and it's who governs, who controls, and who brings the change and ensures that we are eating the right food. And today all of us are eating packaged food. Gone are the days when my food used to be grown in my own fields. It's not possible today for anyone. It is a packaged food, whether it is in a raw format also. But in the raw format also, am I getting the right food or not? It gets driven from this body called FSSAI. So what are the different regulations? How it is impacting the lives and the businesses and the global bans on the food additives. How it is in India as compared to others. What's coming up in or cooking up in the regulatory environment? What's new we can expect? Some kind of a trends in food revolution and the what kind of a expectation we would have from the growth and the expectation perspective, and the challenges with the India's FBO business or industry is experiencing right now, and how this is going to impact the whole food chain. It's one of the very interesting topic, and as we always do, feel free to keep talking, keep raising your questions in between. While we have designed the discussion in a manner that we go depth, a lot of your queries many may get addressed, but in between you have anything, feel free to keep asking on the chat box. It's open. I can already see there are some chats which have already come in here. Okay, no, it's only Ashwin. Okay, so look forward and let's have an interesting conversation. So I invite Krishna to first start the discussion.
Thank you, Jayant, and thank you, Ashwin. Really, it is, I'm fortunate that you have included me into these discussions. Looking at my experience and leveraging what I have learned from, policy advocacy and regulatory quality assurance, etc., by working in different organizations like Nestle, Wrigley's, and so on and so forth. I just wanted to, make sure that probably you will get some new insight while we are discussing this particular topic. And also, I expect or I assume that, most of the people are well aware about these regulations. So I will try to, fix the pace also, fix the pace of our discussion as well, because as Jayanta said, that this is a very vast field. So for that kind of vast nature of the regulations, it is very difficult to explain each and everything in a span of 20-25 minutes, which is being allotted to me. So please, I believe that this presentation will be available to you as well. So please don't much focus on the slides, rather than try to focus on the articulation which Ashwin and myself will be making, or the Jayant is already making, right? So just focus on that part so that you get a little bit glimpses of what is happening around the world, what is happening around India in terms of the statutory mechanism or the regulators, at the regulators basket. So please try to understand that rather than reading these slides. These will be available with you. You can go through one by one, right? So let us start with the integration. To the best of my understanding, initially there were several ministries which were controlling the food products, be it as a Ministry of Agriculture or the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, so on and so forth. So these ministries were controlling, the food products, and there was no clarity in the enforcement and responsibilities of each of the people, right? There was no integration, no integrated approach, and the non-compliances cases were dealt in the different ministries, which seems to be not appropriate in line with ease of doing businesses in India. So these particular aspects have been highlighted by the various, because we do also we are also having codex signatory, trade signatory. So a lot of people have raised questions around all these issues. And then it was decided to integrate all these laws, and a statutory body, an independent statutory body, which is called as an FSSAI, is created within the Ministry of Health, right? So this is an autonomous body which is created to make sure that, the ease of doing business is being taken care, or the issues of the various stakeholders is being taken care, right? So these are the three additional input how this integration process has started, in somewhere 2004 it has started, and then in 2006 the act, came into picture, where they have imbibed all the knowledge from the different laws ministries, and then accordingly the responsibilities and various activities are put in place to make sure that there is an integration. So it is not just an FSSAI. There are other ministries, there are other statutes which are applicable to food. You can see how many other different statutes are there in India, which also control the food in some other way. For example, Advertisement and Standard Council of India looks after what kind of claims and information dissemination you are making to on the food products, whether are relevant to the consumer or not. If there is an grievances that is being dealt with, they have signed an MOU with FSSAI also. So anything related to claims and misunderstanding, misleading kind of thing, it goes to FSSAI through these guys, and then they take an appropriate action to save the consumer interest. Similarly, you have a plastic waste management rules. A lot of use and cries is there on this particular regulations. Now, recently, under this particular rule, they have mandated that by April 2025, you have to recycle rPET at a 25% rate, right? Now, we do not have enough capacity in India to recycle 25 or 30% of the those kind of material into the virgin material. So I don't know because of what reason those limits are being set, year by year. And then again, probably in 2026, additional 10% you have to, recycle that. Since we do not have an appropriate infrastructure, so it is very difficult to achieve those kind of, results. So, the industry is going back to the ministry and saying that, this is how, if there is an alternate solution, you can bring in that. You have a National Biodiversity Act. Many people doesn't know. To whom I have spoken to, many people doesn't know about this act. It is located at the center also. It is located at the state also. So there is a state biodiversity board. There's a national biodiversity. What essentially this particular act and rules talks about, because they want to protect the biological resources of India or biological heritage of India. It could be in terms of the ingredient, it could be in terms of the plant, animal, anything, or our traditional wisdom or traditional knowledge as well. So this regulation talks about that. And then there is a concept of called shared benefit. So if we are extracting those species or those things from the environment, you have to share whatever you have, profit you have gained out of that, you have to share with the farmer or the local community. That is what it talks about. And the most importantly, it is designed to protect the threatened species as well. There are many species which are going to extract. We talk Ayurveda. You know how many herbs are going to be replanted in the environment? Nobody knows that. So, people are extracting from, the environment, but not replenishing it again. So those species will get extinct over the period of time. So to protect that, this particular act is being designed. However, there are certain exemptions given. For example, if a commodity which is there in the environment, which is normally traded since ages. So probably for that reason, this particular act is not applicable. And also, if certain approval is given to extract for certain kind of species, which is further going into value addition. So the person who is making value addition, for that also they have given the exemption from this act. But more or less whosoever is extracting those kind of, commodities from the environment, they have to pay back to the society. That is what it rule says. And then if you are violating it, then there are certain penalties. Similarly, you have agriculture, producing, grading, marketing. Nowadays, this AgMark or these kind of regulations are uh, taken away from the food because the Prime Minister is FSSAI. So FSSAI developing the standard for that. But still, these particular things are exist because probably they want to make a restriction in the trade, etc., etc. For example, wheat ka case recently they have said that you cannot send wheat outside, or you should have this kind of stock limit in India because most of the wheat goes into PDS and ICDS program, government program, etc., etc. So those kind of provisions are there in these, but more or less AgMark, BIS, etc. This is being taken away nowadays. So the responsibility for controlling those kind of products is with FSSAI. You have a CPA, Consumer Protection Act. Again, this is established to protect the consumer rights. So if you are making misleading advertisement, misleading informations, less weight you are giving, there is flaw in the any good and services, illegal trade you are doing, all these for these all Consumer Protection Act is there, and consumer has a right for asking compensation also. So those kind of things are there in CPA. Detailed list of penalties, etc., etc., is also being envisaged over there. Then you have a legal methodology. There are 3-4 requirements which will be detailed in the further slide. Atomic Energy Act is, as of now, is more or less is related to the irradiation of the food. So if you are controlling certain kind of contaminants, micro or biological contaminant in your food, you do irradiation. So there are certain regulations for that. FSSAI also has a regulation on irradiation. You have to put an irradiation logo, etc., etc. And there are certain limit for irradiation also being, talked about in that regulation. So let us move to specifically on the FSSAI regulation. So these are the primary regulation which I thought that it will be most important at this juncture to make you understand on certain aspect of these regulations. So each regulation I'm giving certain quick points on that so that you can protect your business. You can also understand what are the key top things should be there on your mind. One is that doing business without license is a criminal offense. This is very clear. So make sure that you have a license. Second is that you should buy and sell from the licensed vendor. So you should have a license. Also, if you are buying certain materials from somebody, then that guy should also have a license, FSSAI license, right? Then one license is enough for all the activities which you are doing in the same premises. For example, if you have a 13-acre premises and if you have a different 10 plant within that, so you can have one license, right? That is also provision in the regulations. And I will appreciate FSSAI in this particular aspect of FSSAI regulation. Everything is online today, right? So they have done they have transformed themselves into very, a very different kind of organizations like it was not earlier. So all the information of FSSAI, be it is in regulation, licensing, fortification, FOSCOS, approval, everything is there online nowadays. You just log on to fssai.gov.in. You will get each and every aspect of it. However, in the license, 6 monthly mandatory compliance testing is also envisaged. It should be for physical, chemical, and microbiological parameters. Those parameters are defined in specific individual regulation of food product and food additive regulations. You can log on to that and find out what kind of contaminant is applicable to you. Then you have to give an annual return by 31st May of each year. You have to give the annual return to FSA. That is also made online. So you have to give that. So the important part which I would like to highlight is that recently there is a discussion going on that for rejected material because of so many reasons, right? You may have an expiry product. You may have an intermediate product which is rejected within your facility, right? For that also, they are saying that you have to file online submission that I have rejected this kind of material. Why it has happened? Because recently there was an issue in UP and High Court intervened in. What was happening is some kind of fried products are being sold to the market by repacking, which were got expired. So because of that reason, the PIL was filed in High Court, and then High Court has directed FSI to constitute a panel and prepare a specific guideline for that. So that is also going on. So probably in future, another 6 months or 7 months, you will find that there is another tab in the FSSAI which says that file your submission on the expired and rejected stock. There is a discussion going on that certain things has to be excluded. What is to be excluded, what is not to be excluded, that discussion is going on between regulator and industry. We are representing it through CII, FICI and other associations, right? What I would like to request you, this is the problem which I have faced, right? Please keep updated your contact details, email ID, mobile number of nominee or, the responsible of your operations online in FOSCOS portal. This is very easy. And now, just now, yes, day before yesterday, they have released one advisory also, wherein they said without any cost, immediately you can change the nomination and nominee detail on the FOSCOS portal, right? This just 2 days back, they have released it. So they have made easy. Otherwise, then it has to go into approval process, 30 days, 60 days and all, and your launch will be delayed. So they have made industry friendly in that context. Proprietary food is a very, complex subject, and, the FSOs or CLAs, your licensing officer, they keep asking so many questions. You have not put a correct categorization of your proprietary food. Name is not correct. Nomenclature is not correct. Ingredient list not given. So and so many, so many, questions they ask. So please prepare your, understanding well in advance for these kind of information and upload on the website so that the time of your proprietary food licenses gets curtailed. They also ask specific queries and responses, whereas a lot of time goes, there will be 3, 4, 5 different queries, and then you will get to know that after 60 month also you don't have a license. So please prepare for that. There is a little bit, because they have moved to the very new regime of online, etc., etc. There is a little bit issues which I would like to highlight you, that there is an inconsistent enforcement across the state. Across the state, the people have a different understanding about the same subject. For example, the name of the product, what should it be if it is a proprietary food? Should it be dairy-based drink? Should it be flavored milk? Should it be something else? Different varied interpretation is there. So you have to bear with that till the time, everybody comes in the same platform, right? There are technical portal issues also because they are handling a large chunk of data. So please, whenever you are filing application, whenever you are deciding a launch of your product in the market, please factor in this time as well. So these are the few things which I have encountered. Being as a large corporate, we have all sort of, remedial action plans, etc. But for the small, medium enterprises, probably it is a difficult one. So please prepare yourself. And if you don't know something, then you can take a help from, the experts like, Lawrbit consultancy and so many other consultants are there. So you can take a help from them to get it sorted out earliest as possible. This is about labeling and regulation, display regulation. You know each and everything about. I don't want to focus on that much on that, but on your label there are certain mandatory information you have to put on. And before putting those information, make sure that your license also has similar kind of compliance process. Legal methodology talks about only net weight quantity and supplementary net quantity declarations, MRP, unit sale price, and consumer care details. It doesn't talk about much. There are many things written in the legal methodology law, but under each clause you will find certain provision. For example, uh, legal methodology also talk about the name of the product, but that is not mandatory. Read the clause under the legal methodology clause where the name of the product is envisaged. You will find that they say in that provision, they will say, please refer FSSAI. So you will find, date marking, you will find name and complete address of the, manufacturer, etc., etc. But under the clause, it is exempted and it is referred to some other regulations like FSSAI. So by virtue of that understanding, what I have concluded is you have three mandatory things for legal methodology. One is net weight, supplementary quantity, MRP, unit sale price, and consumer care detail. Okay. There is another requirement in FSSAI. So one is that you have a requirement for packaged food, okay, which is going for retail. There is another kind of elephant which is non-retail. For example, if you are buying sugar from X for your intermediate use, right? So for that, they said that, okay, fine, because retail requirements are too much. So you can put a little minimum requirement, which will help in identifying traceability and safety of the product. For that, the mandatory given is name of the food, FSI logo, license number, date marking, lot number, batch number, and address. And the rest information, whatever they have asked, is can be supplied or provided through accompanying document, or if you have an online portal or system or whatever, you can put there, right? Those informations. So only these 5 information need to be put on the non-retail container. Somebody has asked, I think in the query section, it is there. I'm responding right now. If additional information there, Mr. Jayant or somebody else can explain. So for food service establishment, basically restaurant, etc., you have to declare calorific value, serving size, and statement that average active adult required 22,000 kilocal per day energy, right? That statement should be there on either your menu or on the desk, wherever you are putting that particular product. Allergen information, logo, veg and non-veg, and advisory or cautionary declarations, if at all is applicable to that. For example, if that product is not suitable for pregnant woman or lactating lady or something. So there are certain advisory statements. So those statement linked to that particular product has also be there on the menu or cart or somewhere, wherever it's possible, right? At the point of the sale. So the another big elephant is the contaminant and toxins, and this is a big bottleneck or big issue in Indian context, because our systems are not aligned like the global systems, like global gap, and so many other systems are there. We do not have a discrete use of the pesticides and chemicals in agricultural land. The dichotomy is that the farmers are not under the ambit of the FSS Act. So whatever they want to do, what kind of chemical they want to spray on their crops, etc., is up to them, depending on their awareness about that particular pesticide. I don't know. I have seen in my kitchen garden, I bought some chemical for spraying on certain plant, and my wife has used it in all the plants which are available in my home. So if we do not have right kind of informations, and a particular pesticide or chemical is to be used for a particular crop, and if we're spraying in all other crops, then probably there is a danger of having that pesticide in that particular crops. And then the FSI will pick up the sample, they will test, and they will found that particular chemical in your product, and they will say that it is unsafe. And then again, criminal proceeding will start. So that is a dichotomy, because the farmers are not under the ambit of the FSSAI. But however, there are system in place in CIBRC or Agriculture Ministry. They say that, label claims are approved, the pesticide manufacturer, they are training the farmer, etc., etc. So many things are there. But at ground level, I feel that is somewhere, actual implementation is missing. And industry is corroborating and, collaborating with the ministries, trying to provide them understanding that this is what is happening, why you are, I'm a food business manufacturer. I do not add any pesticide or chemical in my food other than what is specified by the FSSAI. If something is getting detected over there, it's not my fault, right? How do I, or if I do detect it and reject it, and then what will the impact on the farmers economy, etc. Those all big things are there. So probably, the government will listen it and, come with some appropriate solution on this particular aspects. But make sure that, your raw materials and finished products are, compliant to the FSSAI regulations. Every batch has to be tested. If not, then you can do a risk assessment for the entire, say, take a 5-6 years ka data and understand that particular chemical is there or not, if it is beyond the limit or not, and then accordingly do a risk assessment and find out at what frequency I have to test that particular raw material, because every batch may not be possible to test, in an actual scenario. So these are the few things about, the contaminant and toxin regulation. Now recently there is a big elephant is coming, is 0.01 default limit for the pesticides which are not defined by FSSAI. Now that is a global understanding people have brought in, but with the kind of dichotomy I have explained to you, I don't know, your testing cost may increase or rejection may increase, or so many things. Economic impact will be there. How many food products you will reject at your end, and whether 0.01 limit is a scientifically established one, based on the dietary consumption, dietary survey, health impact, etc., etc. That is something, probably, we need to look at in a very serious way. So that is what my understanding on that particular part. So this is about food product standard and food additive standards. I don't know, because your licenses are linked to the food categories, right? So if you haven't defined your product appropriately in the right category in the license, and you are manufacturing it, tomorrow some food safety officer will come to your premise and say that, okay, where you have put your product, this product is not a standardized product, it's a proprietary. Have you put it under proprietary? This product is not a standardized product, it's a functional food. Have you put it under functional food? Have you got the right kind of license? So this is linked to the license and some other, compliance parameters. So make sure that your products are, aligned with the regulation and appropriately categorized in these packets. So standardized food is the food for which FSSAI has straightforward standards, like atta, like maida, like, sugar. These are the standards. Straightforward, there is a standard. Proprietary food are there where standards are not there, but government or the FSI is allowed to use, allowed to produce these products, provided that, number one, your ingredient additives are permitted in the FSSAI. Okay. So if those ingredient and additives are permitted in FSSAI, then you can mix and match them and, produce your proprietary food. And for that also you need to get a license. The other one is the functional food, where all your nutraceuticals, FSMP, probiotic, prebiotic, novel food, etc. comes. So there are certain guidelines defined for that. In fact, they have defined what kind of ingredient you have to use, at what level you have to use. Everything is there. What kind of standardization has to be done is there for this particular one. The another is organic food. For that, they have said that you have to refer NPOP, National Program on Organics, and PGS, okay, Participatory Government Scheme Program. So you have to certify your product with those NPOP and PGS requirement, and then accordingly you can produce your food. Fortified food is especially on if you are adding certain kind of vitamin, minerals, etc. in your products. So that will fall under the category of the proprietary food. There are limits defined by the FSSAI. Minimum limits and maximum limits are defined. Accordingly, you have to produce. Non-specified food is about some kind of food which is not defined in FSSAI, for which the standards are not established, and which has a novel kind of characteristics. For example, you have extracted some bioactive from a particular plant which is not defined within the FSSAI, then probably for that particular product, you need a prior approval from FSSAI. Or if you are mixing and matching, certain kind of food which does not exist in FSSAI or in India, and it is very novel to the India, for that also, probably you need to get an prior approval from FSSAI. Similarly, it is for vegan food. If you are putting a logo of vegan, then probably you have to go to FSSAI and ask for the approval for that. Only then you will be allowed to use the vegan logo, right? So these are the few examples, of the different kind of foods, how to categorize them. You have to look into the composition of your product and align it with the regulation, and then accordingly you get a license for that. So these we have already discussed. There is a provision of additives. Certain additives are allowed, and it is category wise. For example, within milk is a broader category, and then under the broader category you have subcategories. Ghee, butter, this, that. So for each kind of products, there are definitive additives are allowed in the FSSAI, and they also, it is a hierarchical principle. For example, if something is allowed in broader category, you can use that in the subcategories also. So it's a hierarchical in nature. Make sure that the appropriate additive at the appropriate quantity is added into your product. Okay. And even if you are adding certain additive through carryover, make sure that the carried over additive, it should not be present in the product in excess to the which are allowed in the raw material. For example, in raw material, if it is allowed 50 ppm and you are making a product, finished good, then make sure that the 50 ppm in your final product is ensured. So those kind of understanding and explanation and clarity is there in the food additive regulations. You can go through in appropriate way. And there are certain additives. My take on the additive is that please request your formulator or product development guy to do a risk assessment and make sure that the additive is used at the minimum amount, not at the maximum amount, to achieve your technical function, right? So those kind of understanding is there. You have to verify your raw material suppliers also, whether they have an appropriate license, whether they have used appropriate additive into the, complex matrix of composite food, etc., etc. So these are the few, examples and understanding on that. Probably you will get this reading material, so you can go through that. There is a claim and advertisement regulation also. So it talks about mainly, truthful, ambiguous, meaningful, and, kind of, claims, DRR claims, and so many other claims are there, which will be presented in the next slide. However, there is a definition, what constitutes claim and what constitutes advertisement. So you have to go through this definition carefully. And when we are making any kind of communication on your a product, a label, or website, make sure that these particular communications are adhered to these kind of guidelines. Okay. There is one important aspect in the advertisement and claim regulation, that you should not undermine importance of the healthy lifestyle or healthy diet. Okay. You should not say that this particular product will give you a healthy diet, etc. Or, it should not be portrayed as a healthy product or healthy diet. That is a restriction given in the, and also you should not quote or, claim that this particular product, give you a balanced and varied diets as well. You can say that it should be the part of the balanced diet, but you should not say that it is a balanced diet. So this kind of understanding is there. You should not consume, encourage or condone the excessive consumption of the particular food as well. That is also given in the advertisement regulation.
So, Grit, on this slide, I have one quick question from you. So today, specifically, advertising claim is becoming a a talk of the town with food bloggers, and with the success of a food farmer, there are everybody's trying to be a food blogger, trying to, and suddenly from zero awareness, there's too much of awareness. How, as an industry expert, you've seen things changing, and what kind of challenges specifically with respect to advertising and claim regulations, which you've experienced in the last 1 year?
Yes, you're absolutely right that the people who do not have a technology background, food technology background, do not have a scientific background, by just reading label and concominating it with certain understanding of somebody, and then saying that this particular food is good or bad, it seems to be is not appropriate at this moment until unless you have a scientific backing of your claims, whether it is good or bad, etc. So uh, we had a dialogue with the regulators. We have a dialogue with ministries through various associations, and we had highlighted this particular point to them, and they seems to be working on that, and probably something will come up in going forward. Something will come up on that as, because the responsibility will be fixed. I, as a food business operator, I had a responsibility that is already fixed for, but for these kind of, nuances, probably under the different act, either it is Consumer Protection Act or Advertisement, Act, or so many other, similar kind of IT Act or something else, something will come over there to make sure that, these guys have a right kind of qualification to interpret the law. So these are the various different kind of claims. There are three bucket. One is nutrition claim, another is health claim, and then other claims are there, right? So under nutrition claim, then you have nutrient content claim, comparative equivalence claim. Just would like to make sure that you understand what is the equivalence claim. For example, if your product has 100 milligram of calcium, and if your milk 1 cup of milk delivers that 100 gram of calcium, so you can make saying that this product has this many amount of this much amount of calcium, which is equivalent to say 1 glass of milk, or one strawberry, or one apple, or something like that. So these kind of claims, there are certain conditions associated with it. You have to go through each and everything in the regulation. I'm just giving you a glimpse of that. More importantly, there are certain claims prohibited. You cannot make a prevention, elevation, or treatment cure of any disease. Okay. And the label should not contain that it is recommended by some nutritionist, health professional, medical doctor, etc., etc. Okay. And if nutrient is added in your product just for the compensation of something else, then please don't make added nutrient claims. Okay. Do not claim that it contains added nutrients. If you have added, 0.000001 ppm, and then for some other purpose, but then that particular nutrient has a very, very, what you say, very good connotation with the consumer, saying that it is good, then probably at that particular level, it may not meet that good criteria. So hence, please don't make those kind of claims. And also, please do not undermine the products of any other manufacturer. That is also emphasized in the advertisement and claim regulation. You can't say that my product is better than X product. Okay. So those kind of things are not permitted. For disease risk reduction claims, if you have a scientific background, clinical studies, then probably all these studies, etc., has been submitted to FSSAI and get a prior approval for that, and then make. If you want to say that my product contains X, and this X will help you in, get rid away of cardiovascular disease or so and so forth, for that, then you need to get a approval from FSSAI. Only then you can use those kind of claims. This is just I have thought, how you should do a risk assessment, whether I want to use a particular additive or not, if it is allowed in FSSAI, but it is not allowed in some other, statute or regulation or this and that. So probably, this is a kind of a simple framework which I have chatted, and I thought I will share with you how you do the risk assessment, and then accordingly decide your future formulations or existing formulation, whether you want to remove it, or because there is a global concern on certain kind of ingredients, certain kind of materials. You should keep reading the various news article, etc., etc. Go browse through the various regulators' website, understand them, what is going on. Because a restriction, today's restriction in US may come tomorrow in India also, because we are a trade partner, right? Or for some other reason also, for the safety reason also, because scientists are talking about on that particular aspect. So you make sure that those information are available, you have done a right kind of risk assessment, and then you can advise your businesses that what should be your future course of action. Yes. So there is some kind of buzz going on in food space. Just want to highlight one about the acrylamide. You people know that, there is a certain amino acid which is called an asparagine. When it reacts with the sugar under very high heat and a long time of cooking, or frying, or whatever it is. So this particular component is gets generated, and there is a lot of hues and cries across the world on this about its carcinogenicity, etc. And the codex is also, working on that to develop certain kind of guideline how to reduce this. One example, is that if you can use asparaginase enzyme in your processes, so that this particular compound is not formed. If you have those kind of processes where in high heat and, these combination of amino acids and sugars are there, so probably you can get rid of that situation. So there is a guideline going on, is being established in Codex. Probably it will come in, another 1 year. It will be finalized and it will be rolled out for, understanding and implementation. The aspect which is just now FSSAI has released on the percent RDA bolding on nutritional information panel for sugar, added sugar, saturated fat, and sodium. So last column, if you see, generally, if you find certain packs in your supermarket, or you might be having that, the last column talks about percent RDA of that particular component: added sugar, saturated fat, and sodium. So I think this is already approved by authority. It is in draft form. They have seeking some comment, and in another 8-9 months, it will be rolled out as a final notification. So you have to make a bold and relatively in the large size for that last column of percent RDA. So probably you can start working on your artworks, etc. Because for a small organization, it could be very easy to transition from this to that. But you look at my organization, very difficult, because we have so many categories, so many products, so many SKUs. So you have to plan it well in advance. Another issue is about titanium dioxide, especially from China, because I believe that it is because of some asbestos content is coming in titanium dioxide, or there is a anti-dumping kind of understanding within the ministry, and some trade classification. Maybe it is zero import duty or something else, and that is getting dumped in India, while India has sufficient amount of titanium dioxide. So probably that reasons, it's all political, I believe, at this moment. So there is a discussion going on that it could be banned or restricted, etc. Microplastic is another issue which is internationally it is being discussed. So FSSAI has taken note of that, and they have established a panel, and they are assessing the issue, how to deal it with. Probably a lot of discussion will happen with the experts, toxicologists, and so on and so forth. Accordingly, they will bring some kind of guideline. This expired stock, I have already explained you that it is going to come, because spurious practices are being done in the marketplace. So to curb those practices, since it is already being discussed in the High Court of UP and the relevant information is sent to FSSAI to establish a guideline, so they are doing it. I'm sorry it is a little bit taking time, but since the subject is so vast, so I thought, at least give my perspective on that particular thing. Another is about BPA. EU has banned it. 18 months phase out is given. BPA generally used in the resins, right? So whenever they are making plastic packaging material, the resins are used. So the BPA is used over there for integrity, texture, whatever, so many other functional properties. So it is already banned. 18-month ka phase out given, and probably in 19th December onwards, then the implementation will start. US has also released a draft FOPNL, front of pack nutritional labeling, wherein you have to declare per serve DV value of saturated fat, added sugar, and sodium, and they have defined a criteria. Low, if you want to say that this particular component is low, then it should have less than 5% of DV. DV is a daily value, which is given by the nutrition expert of that particular country. It's a government driven. Whenever you plan a diet, the DV is taken care into consideration. So that under, for example, in India, the DV for total sugar is 50 gram. So you can consume 15 gram sugar in a day. So accordingly, if I do a math for India, then 5% of DV means 5% of 50 gram. So if your product contains less than that amount, then probably you can write as a low. Similarly for medium, similar for high. And but in Indian context, since we do not have a uniform standardization of this size, although we had given it to FSSAI, they might be looking at it, but this is about US, not in India, right? This is also going on. So probably, India may also think through adopting, okay, this is, better option for giving FOPNL, etc. Erythrocin is also a contentious chemical, which is a color. So it is already banned in US FDA, Canada, effective from 2027. They are going to ban it. The regulation is already there. So they have given some time to get out of this particular pesticide regulation. I have already discussed with you that 0.01 and 0.1 ppm limit is going to be Hercules task to comply. Very difficult to comply in each and every commodity which is being manufactured in India or per se globally also. So I don't know how the government will look at it. Industry had made a representation to the various ministries saying that please look it correctly. We are not saying that you should harm the consumer health, but it should be looked at properly by diet survey, cost impact analysis, cause and effect analysis, etc., etc., and then derive certain numbers. Somebody has asked in query about nutraceutical regulations. I think Jayanji, you told me somebody has asked this question. So there is a discussion already happened in the ministry. There is an interministerial task force, and we got to know that there are certain verbatim they have given in the final recommendation to the government. One, if your tablet capsule having vitamin minerals with excipient means a certain material which is used as a carrier. Okay, so if your tablet capsule they are with excipient, then probably it may go to CDSO. Like earlier also, drug authority was regulating tablet and capsule, right? So it came to FSSAI at the advent of that nutraceutical regulation. So if you have those kind of straightforward products, probably you may have to go to, probably, I'm not sure, it is still not public and final documentation, but probably you may go to CDSO. IUC ingredient which has prophylactic and cure claims in food matrix, then it will go to IUC ministry. That is what I am understanding. But if you have a product in a food matrix, right? I'm not talking about with excipient. If you have a product in a food matrix wherein these kind of products are being there, like probiotic and prebiotic. If it is pure probiotic, pure prebiotic, then it may go to CDSO. But if it is mixed with the food matrix and offered for the sale, probably it will remain with the FSSAI. And also, the basic claim like your nutrient content claim, nutrient function claim, etc., will retain with the FSSAI. So these are the three broader understanding which I got from the various interactions. So hope that addresses your queries, whosoever has raised that. So this is something, a sum up from my side. Thank you very much for listening me. Hope it has enriched your understanding a little bit more. And if you have any query, then probably we can discuss in Q&A section. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you, Krishnaji. And Ashwin, before you start, I just want to have one quick, question for both of you. Now, we spoke about few important regulations of food safety in India, but if I, look at the data, there are around 28 regulations. We just spoke about five, six of them. Now, it's so vast. Um, At the same time, you also mentioned one thing that the regulators, when they are taking a decision, they have to consider a lot of things. One from a dietary perspective, second is affordability in India. So, how do you see a change right now? Because suddenly there is a lot of buzz around the right kind of a food, whether the food is contaminated or not, what should we eat or should we not eat. But see, if we start eating the right food, uh, the prices suddenly goes up. And what is the government or regulators' dilemma at this point of time, or their thought process when it comes to forcing these regulations and making it effective? Because these regulations are there, but are they? If they were in working well, we wouldn't have seen any kind of a contamination. Today we don't know whether you're eating a red ghee. Today we don't know whether my oil is correct or not, my dals are correct or not, even on the basic of these things. Forget about any, pre packaged or cooked food. What's what's your experience? What's your understanding?
Jayant, I'll take this one. I think Krishna's not there. Okay, so I've been working in the food safety space for about 20 years and with FSSAI since it was born, right? So I've worked very closely with FSSAI. I've been on both the sides of the aisle. I also am a national advisor to FSSAI, so I do a lot of work with them. And we deal with almost 85,000 food companies, so I understand the industry as well, right? So the biggest challenge that I've seen with FSSAI is while they want to bring in the best regulations, they want to elevate the food safety in India. The biggest challenge comes because they don't have enough enforcement manpower, right? While they have the teeth, if you notice, the law currently has teeth. I mean, it can put you in jail, it can, charge you lakhs and crores in fines, it can shut you down. How many people have gone to jail over food safety violations in India? Zero.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, fines have been issued, but again, actually fines were issued for every infraction. Half the economy would be running on fines too, right? That's the amount of infractions that happen. The challenge is FSSA as a regulation base starts by saying that, hey, here is the regulation. You, as the FBO, is supposed to ensure that you are following it. It's not my job as a regulator to ensure you're doing it. You, as the FBO, are supposed to do it. So they've kept the entire onus of following the law on food businesses. And the challenge starts with, first of all, most businesses don't know what are all the laws and regulations that they need to comply to. Some of the bigger ones that do know, for example, ITC, of course, it knows everything it has to do, and they have the manpower to do it. They have the bandwidth to do it. For smaller companies, right, for the SMEs, first of all, they don't know out of 10 things they need to do, they probably know 3, 4, or 5. They're not even aware of the 5. Out of what they're supposed to do, some of it can become expensive and or they want to save cost and they don't end up doing it. And there were no repercussions because of it, right? Because in the last 5, 6 years, social media has become more prevalent. Today, people are not as afraid of FSSA that they are of social media. If something goes wrong, they're okay to handle the officer FSSA, but don't put it up on Twitter, don't put it on Facebook because that can get viral, right? So today we work with so many food businesses they're not doing this because it's a FSI requirement. I mean, that's hygiene. I mean, for us, and when we tell them, like, of course you have to do this. But many of the newer businesses, some of them actually want to do more for two reasons. One, they don't want anything bad to happen because it can impact their business negatively, very, very negatively. Like one single bad publicity can really sink a small business, right? While Nestle can survive a Maggie fiasco because it was Nestle, right? Any small company, it would have been gone. By end of the year, that would have been shut. The second challenge is FSSAI, when they know, by the way, FSSAI knows that things are going wrong. They just don't have the manpower to reach it. However, there is, in this gloomy dark cloud, there is a silver lining. The silver lining is FSSAI has a very, very robust complaint mechanism. So if you, as an end consumer, you consume a bad product and you complain, this complaint actually gets logged in their system, and they will have to close the ticket in the newer age help desk system ways. It creates a ticket, and the ticket is then assigned to state. Then the state assigns it to a food safety officer from the area, and the food safety officer has to go and see what is going on, right? So many times, if you're a new business, there is a very less chance a food safety officer is going to come and investigate. Are you okay? Are you not okay? Right? Like, have you set up your business properly or not? Is your kitchen clean or not? Is your factory clean or not? 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 licenses actually get an inspection, right? But almost every complaint that is raised does get looked into. That may result in a food safety officer coming to your manufacturing place. They may pick up products from the industry or from the market and get it tested. So the silver lining here is, if you want safer food in India, if you see something wrong, complain about it. Tell FSSAI about it. Raise a complaint in their app, raise a complaint on their website. It will get looked into, right? Many people today will actually threaten food businesses, not by saying I'll go to FSSAI, but by saying I'll put it up on Twitter, I'll put it up on Facebook, I'll put it up on Instagram. And food businesses, funny enough, are more scared of that than FSSAI. So I think that's one little change that I'm seeing, and one little trend that I'm seeing. Krishna, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely right. And, just in addition to that, uh, as I told you earlier also, really we appreciate the kind of efforts the FSSAI has put into, design, develop, integrate the various kind of systems and, understanding, which is helping in ease of doing businesses as well. However, like you said, there are some gold line or silver line. So there is something also need to be looked at from the perspective of defining and designing certain kind of regulations. So if actual field level data is corroborated, requested to generate, put it together at one platform, make certain understanding out of that, put certain kind of analogies, hypothesis, and then decide or design certain kind of strict statutory parameters or the limits. That is something there is an still opportunity exists, and and hopefully the government is understanding that particular part. And because of lot of integration of AI and other data sources, etc., probably that will also be taken care in going forward. That's my understanding. But you are absolutely right that uh, as a large business of operators, we are less afraid about FSSAI because we follow each and every clause of the regulation which is written in. But we are afraid about those kind of new systems which are getting created in social media, unnecessary, creating problem for the food businesses unnecessarily without having a certain scientific, and some of them are vested interest also. Let me put you upfrontly.
Now, actually, there is another question which I have for you. Now, as I'm reading the food FSA regulation in India, it's had so many regulations. It's a very, as I mentioned, it's very vast. And if I look at the food regulations, food safety regulations in other part of the world, India, there's too much of content written, but very less, enforcement of the same. Whereas if I look at, and very less awareness of the same. If I go to Western countries, it's a lot of awareness. And again, there are more detailing also available. So you're doing a project for a hotel in Netherlands. Uh, for a specific food item also on your plate, there are regulations whether you can put it on this, or what kind of, how you have to do a disclosure on your menu. And I don't find disclosures on menu even of the five-star, best of the hotels in India, where it's much more detailed one there. Like many other regulators who take clues from the regulations and enforcement from from the developed countries, where these regulations have evolved over a period, are Indian regulators also taking clue, one in defining regulations and second is enforcement? And are you seeing any involvement of a private sector in the in the enforcement? As you said, there is very less informants because they don't even have manpower, and it's not going to change. Government is not going to suddenly recruit lakhs of people, because you need a foot on the ground in every lane possibly.
So I think you spoke about two different parts. One is, regulations in other country, regulations in India. So you mentioned about, hey, like when you go to Netherlands, there are things on the menu that are seen. Like right now, the regulations in India would also mandate that, but they have not been rolled out for every restaurant because it is not affordable for a single restaurant to be able to get the entire menu checked, get the nutrition information for all the menu items. So by the way, this law came in about 4 years ago, where FSS said that, hey, if you have, if you're a restaurant, you need to start putting in nutrition information, especially calories, allergens, veg, non-veg logo, and other things, on your menu. But I was a part of that discussion as well, right? The original thought was every restaurant should have it, but then practically it's just not possible because a small restaurant just cannot afford it. So then the regulation was created, hey, if you're a central license holder or if you have 10 or more restaurants, if you're a chain of restaurants, then you should do it. That has already started in India, and it's already there in a lot of chain restaurants. It is there, of course, in five-star hotels. It's already there, but it has become almost invisible because you're just used to seeing it, right? So when it's not there, if you go to a small restaurant, you don't see it. Suddenly you're like, oh, the menu's looking empty. That's because you don't see those symbols. Like, for example, if I stay in an ITC hotel, it is always there. All allergy information is going to be there. I know exactly if I'm having, butter chicken, how much, calories am I going to have. All of that is displayed already, right? The second part, the privatization part, is a very interesting topic and something which is very close to me because I played a very big role in privatizing one or actually two functions of FSSAI. There is a under FSSAI, there's something called FOSTAC, which stands for Food, this thing, Training and Certification, right? So the concept of FOSTAC was, if you that time the CEO, Mr. Pawan Agarwal, he wanted that every food handler in the country should be trained by government, so that because today most food handlers, unfortunately, are not highly educated. Okay, but how are we expecting them to produce safe food if there's no training? So his concept was every food handler has to be trained. Now I know very well, Krishna will agree with me, that we just can't have every single food handler trained in the country. We just don't have the number of trainers, the space available, because there are millions and crores of food handlers. So I remember negotiating with him, saying that, boss, for every 50 people, can you have one food handler, one trained guy who can then train the 50 people. The one guy gets trained by FSSAI, and then the 50 people get trained. And finally, me and he negotiated down that for every 25 food handlers, there has to be one food safety supervisor. So that was, one victory where, we were able to establish a training protocol across the country. The second very small but very significant victory was, original thought was FSSAI will conduct those trainings themselves, will spread the awareness themselves and conduct those trainings themselves. I know exactly how the government organizations work. I put my foot down there saying, boss, you may do this. After 5 years, you wouldn't even have trained 10,000 people. Take this in writing. They're like, what is the solution? I said, hey, can you privatize this whole training thing where you create a criteria, companies apply. If they match the criteria, you deputize them as your training partner. Now, I think the beauty is today we are touching almost 10 lakh food safety supervisors have been trained because there are more than 200 training partners. There are more than 2,000 trainers across India, each training partner creates that awareness in the market, sets up those trainings. These trainers then go train 30, 40, 50 people at a time. And now we are able to almost by touching a 10 lakh figure. If that wasn't put in place, we wouldn't have even touched 10,000. So that was already a place where FSSAI is using the private sector. And the same thing we have done for auditing. Third-party auditing, FSSAI no longer wants to do third-party auditing. They have authorized bodies to do third-party auditing. They have authorized bodies to create hygiene rating, right? So they started a concept called hygiene rating for restaurants, right? It was started by me within FSSAI. There also the same challenge came. Like, are food safety officers going to go to restaurants and give them hygiene rating? They don't have the time to even go open, see new places being opened. Where are they going to go and apply for this? So that entire thing was privatized as well. So very soon you're going to see privatization coming into FSSAI because they'll realize that, hey, we're better as regulators than as enforcers. They just don't have the bandwidth to enforce. But by being smart about it, they are now creating private sectors who kind of step in and help, strengthen the food safety infrastructure of the country.
I have one last question, but I'm going to reserve it for towards the end once you touch on those slides which you
Yeah, I
have.
think the second part you have asked about the amalgamation of you know various stakeholders within the FSSAI while devising certain kind of policies, etc. So yes, there is a mechanism. There are scientific panel. There is the forums created by FSSAI wherein they invite experts and industry associations also to dwell on certain kind of subjects so that they can establish the right kind of regulations. But yes, that is there and it is fully operational. But little bit, I think there is an opportunity to understand, to get the right kind of input, not right kind, right quality of the input. So if uh, that is strengthened, probably we will be having one of the best class regulatory mechanism, and it is already there. FSI already done amalgamation of codex labeling requirement, also looking at different countries regulatory requirement, plus what is right in Indian context. For example, veg, non-veg logo is not there across the world, right? But they have included it. There are certain other things are there, which are specific to the Indian origin, specific to the Indian context. They have included. So if I look at labeling regulation, it is one of the best kind of regulation available, which is an amalgamation of international understanding and indigenous understanding also. So that way, I think FSSI is on right track to the best of my understanding. There are little bit more to be done that I think over the period of time when we learn, from the various episodes and, international forums, probably that will also get included into, the regulation. The only part is that how are we going to implement at grassroots level is something we need to think through.
Understood.
So I think right now, when we talk about convenience food, right, it is definitely a trend which is there for a simple reason. Today, people don't have time to sit at home and cook. So ready to eat and ready to cook food is definitely a trend. But that raises a few questions, right? So when you're creating ready to cook food, food safety, hygiene, labeling practices become absolutely key. The regulations around preservative, shelf life, and storage conditions become very, very important, because if you're able to create ready to eat food and keep it for a year, obviously the preservative is being added. And if somebody's adding preservatives, are they doing their job, right? So shelf life testing and the storage condition of those products become absolutely key. The same part for within the RT/RTC sector, the packaging and labeling becomes important as well. So Krishna already touched upon claims like healthy, natural. They will be restricted. FSS is bringing in a lot of regulations around that. And the last challenge for the RT/RTC is going to be maintaining cold chain, right? So maintaining cold chain is critical because some products require cold chain. India's cold chain infrastructure is not up to the mark. It is lagging behind. It's very expensive to maintain cold chain. India is a relatively large country with extremely complicated logistics that have to be managed to maintain cold chain. So having regulations around it will definitely make it, viable to make sure that cold chain kind of improves. The next part, which I'll touch upon, is possibly conscious consumption, right? Everyone is now thinking of eating healthier. Now, if you see, there is the big trend towards fortified food, organic food, clean label products is absolutely key. There is a lot of work happening in the fortification space where there is iron fortified rice, there is vitamin D fortified milk, and FSSA has created the food, fortification resource center, which is ensuring that all this happens. There are a lot of value added foods such as probiotics, plant based proteins, functional beverages, which are happening, and there's a lot of scientific research happening around this. However, FSI needs to ensure that there is regulatory approvals when these new kind of products are being launched and launched into the market, because there are a lot of new innovative products coming into the market. However, I don't think they've done as good as research as they should, and FSI needs to ensure that that level is kind of met. The next part would be again in conscious food, sustainability and ethical consumption. I think comes as a big part. Uh, when we are talking about sustainability and ethical consumption, today people claim organic. Organic is a very loosely used word nowadays, right? FSSA has created something called as organic certification or Jai Bharat, which ensures that organic is organic. There are a lot of sustainability guidelines which are being created. I mean, we can have an entire day session on sustainability, such a big topic, and another big part which is going to be happening and already happening is packaging regulations and ensuring that packaging regulations are evolving. There are new kinds of packaging materials being created, which are needed to ensure sustainability. Because if you go towards single-use plastics, we are in trouble, right? And today, food is a very large user of single-use plastics. I'm very happy to see companies like Amazon, Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto moving towards paper alternatives where they are slowly moving away from plastics. Amazon has launched a very simple but very effective way to reduce consumption of plastic and all of the packaging material. They launched something called Amazon Day, because today you and I, yeah, we order Amazon as if it's Zepto, right? Because some products now, Zepto's obviously spoiled us even more with the 10-minute delivery, right? But before this, everything you want, you go on Amazon within like 3 seconds, you've ordered it. Next day it shows up. 1 hour later, you're like, oh, I need this also. You go on Amazon, order something which shows up the day after. Amazon Day, what it does is it will take your entire week's deliveries and give you one delivery, right? It saves so much packaging material, it saves so much, green gas, emissions, so that it becomes sustainable. What Whenever I talk to food companies, we always discuss, as a food business, what are you doing to become sustainable, right? So I'll give a small example at Equinox. We generate thousands and thousands of reports. We pick up thousands and thousands of samples across the country, but everywhere we've started looking at sustainable ways of doing it. Now, one small initiative we launched was called Go Green, where we are calling our customers, telling them, please don't ask us for printed reports. Don't ask us for printed invoices. Go to our portal, download from there. We're sending you e-copies. It's coming on email. It's coming on, WhatsApp even. That you don't need printed copies, because unfortunately, because of how we've been doing it, every customer used to get printed copies. And I'm very happy to let you know more than 65% of our customers have switched to Go Green initiatives where we do not print reports. We do not give them invoices anymore on hard copy. Everything is on soft copy, right? What I notice is if customers are given a choice to be sustainable, they will take that choice, right? I don't know if you're aware, there are a lot of new brands which are being launched, including food brands, especially for grains and all, where they are not going to be giving you packaging. They can sell you packaging once, but next time you go with your own bowl or your own jar and they will fill it in and you pay at the counter. The jar is already weighed before, the jar is weighed after. And this is going to be one of the new trends that are coming in, where sustainability is going to be absolutely key. When it comes to something like superior nutrition profile, right? Today, people want to eat healthier. That is the new reality. I think COVID played a very large role in people becoming more aware of what they're consuming, and they want to eat healthier. Now that's a fact, right? What this means is people, food manufacturers, are now creating newer kind of products. They are, are creating high protein products. They are creating low carb products. They are creating products with low sugar and so on and so forth. However, when they're claiming this on the front of pack, those claims need to be validated for sure, right? So FSSAI has introduced, the front of pack labeling for high fat, high sugar, high sodium products, where consumers should understand the difference between nutrient dense options and ultra processed foods, right? So that's a new trend which is kind of coming along. And I think when it comes to the packaging material, there is a lot of new innovation happening, especially for MAP, which is a modified atmospheric packaging, which increases your shelf life by changing the gas composition of what the air inside the packaging. They reduce oxygen, increase nitrogen, increase carbon dioxide, which slows down microbial growth, hence preventing oxidation and enhancing shelf life. While this is great, FSSAI should bring in some more regulations. Today they have a few regulations, but there are a few more regulations in the pipeline where they will literally have to even call out MAP, packaging. If something MAP is used, if radiation is used, there will be a symbol on the packaging letting you know that's the case. I think Krishna touched upon the radiation piece as well, right? The last but not the least is, and everyone's favorite word, which is AI. The beauty is today there are more than 100 companies in the country that are using AI in the food space. Let it be for segregating fruits, vegetables based on images, right? So instead of manually picking, there are machines and high-speed cameras, and which are using AI and machine learning to segregate food. There are IoT-based tracking systems for farm-to-fork transparency. There are people are using AI for predictive analysis of crops. The other day I was talking to a company which is raising around, and they come to me. They're pitching to me, and they are using indicator crops at the edges of their farms. And using a simple phone camera, if you just scan the indicator crop is letting you know how your entire crop yield is doing. And the cost of this is 1/10 of all the other latest technologies which are happening, right? So it was such an interesting way to see that they're using nature to figure out how they can get better, and they're kind of mixing nature and AI as well, right? They are also now AI is being used for customer analysis, consumer analysis, personalized nutrition. There are apps where you can just scan any product on the shelf, and they will let you know what's inside the product. Is it harmful or not? Automatically grades the product. A lot of people have very mixed feelings towards somebody like a food farmer, right? So Revant is a close friend of mine. And when I asked him, "Man, why are you doing what you're doing?" Right? Because he's not making money from what he's doing, right? I mean, the minute he sponsors a food company, his credibility is shot. But the interesting feedback I got from him was, he's like, many people think that Label Padega India affects only food. It's affecting every aspect of life. Today, people are turning behind seeing medicines, right? Anything they're buying, they're actually turning behind and reading labels, not just of food, but of everything. What this is doing, it's empowering consumers to take better decisions, right? All the regulations which are coming in from FSSAI towards the health side, right? Empowering consumers to take better this thing. So, for example, if I go to a restaurant and I see chole bhature and I see it's 1,000 calories, while there is a salad for 200 calories. Yes, once in a while I will still have a chole bhature, but I know, hey, next day I need to work out a little more to burn off that thing, right? So many people think that, hey, you know what? Because health is become important, and there are regulations saying, oh, we have to call this out, we have to say this, we have to say that. The smart food businesses are turning those into opportunities. I'll give another example relating to nutrition, right? So this regulation came out that, hey, you have to call out your calories. Lot of my friends in the restaurant space were cribbing and crying about it. But the smart ones, what they did is, here's my normal menu, but here's my health menu, which has reduced calories. But the health menu is a little bit more expensive. Because if I am eating healthier, I don't mind spending another 10-20% more if I want high protein, if I want low carb. So, for example, I'm on a high protein, low carb diet. If I go to a restaurant and if I see a high protein, low carb dish and that dish is 20% more expensive, I will not hesitate a minute to buy it, right? So people should be, food businesses, smart food businesses are able to turn what many people look at as a hindrance to food business into an advantage for themselves, right? Uh, the last but not the least is, today there is a lot of robotics also being used in food businesses, especially when it comes to sorting, grading, packaging of food. So AI and robotics is already here. It's not the future. We are already living in it. There is already a lot of work happening in the precision fermentation space using genetic engineering, right? That's a whole another deep topic to go into. Today, there are lactose-free dairy products being created, egg substitutes being created, sustainable proteins being created, right? All by using the latest technology. So if there are food businesses, and if you're not using AI, you're not using robotics, you're not using some of the latest cutting edge technology, very soon you will be left behind. Right? My actual presentation was much longer, but I don't think we're going to have the time to get into it. And I'm hoping this kind of gave everyone a quick idea of what are some of the new trends and some of the new opportunities which are available with what's happening in the country.
Ashwin, I'll leave you with one last question. After I have asked you one last question. See, we are a country of 140 or I don't know 150 crore people. Okay, the dichotomy for a regulator is always, as you said, 20%. You maybe you and I may not mind paying, but there's a large chunk who minds even a small increase. अगर दूध का पैकेट 1 रुपया बढ़ता है तो you suddenly consumption drops for some time. Uh, you know, what is the how are regulators looking at it? Because if I today try to enforce all the regulations, suddenly the food it will become very expensive. I give an example of, ghee. We all know the ghee of 500 rupees, 600 rupees is not an authentic ghee, but still it is being sold. Large chunk who's consuming it. Uh, Same for, any kind of a food, regular food also. How are the regulators looking at this point of time? Because this define if a regulator is is okay with with not so forceful enforcement, it gives a lot of space to smaller businesses. But if tomorrow regulators start cracking down on the what have they written in the law, I think we are going to see a huge consolidation in our industry, in this food business. What's your thought on this? And how should a smaller business or medium-sized food business should consider this?
So there is a concept when you look at a country like India, what is how many calories do you get in a rupee? There is an entire sector, entire study around that, right? So, for example, something like Glucon-D, something like this thing, glucose biscuits, Parle-G, something like a Parle-G, you have no idea how many people live on Parle-G, right? So, something like where companies like Parle, companies like all the multinationals, there is a lot of pressure on them because, for every 2%, 5%, 10% price increase, their drop off may be very, very high. Regulators, honestly, I don't think, at least when I say regulators, let me say FSSAI. This is not a prime concern for FSSAI because FSSAI's prime mandate is not to feed the entire country. FSSAI's prime mandate is to ensure that the food is safe, right? The newer mandate which has been taken up is the food is nutritious. Now, for every person like me who's like, oh, I don't mind spending 20% more on extra protein, there is somebody who's going to be like, no, hey, I want more calories per rupee. So there is a market for everyone, right? So if FSSAI is fully mandated, we are all not going to eat in ITCs and Taj, right? There is a market in the middle. There is a market on the ground. The whole idea is, can I make the street hawker safe, right? Like today, Jayad, are you comfortable going to a corner hawker on the street on a cart and eating pani puri there? You won't be. But if you're in Singapore and there is a guy selling something on a skewer, you're more likely to eat there because the country has mandated that even a street food guy has to maintain a certain level of hygiene. To do something that way in India is going to be very difficult. It's not impossible. It's going to be difficult. It's a very long journey. It's another 10 years till anyone can come from any part of the world and eat street food in India. Like I remember I felt very insulted when I'd invited a few of my friends from US over and we only had food in ITC and Taj. Not even normal. Forget the street food, so you can even just write off. Right? The only meals I could take them and where they were comfortable eating was ITC and Taj. Only places. They were like, no, not small restaurants. Oh, I don't know how it will be. I have a very sensitive stomach. And I was like, that's just bullshit. Right? And I took almost a personal offense. One second, you can't be thinking that about my country. And I'm in a place where I can do something about it. And we are doing something about it, right? People like Krishna, people like me, we are fighting the good fight. We are trying to lift that food safety barrier. However, it's going to take a lot of time for that to happen. FSSAI is that's their dream, right? That every food in India is safe. There is no food poisoning incidences. There is nobody falling ill from food. However, that reality is very far away. Small bites at a time. Today, there are hawkers who will use Bisleri water. They will charge 2 rupees more in a pani puri. And by the way, we ran this, funny enough, we ran this as an experiment on Juhu Beach in Mumbai like 10, 12 years ago, along with FDA. It was a fun experiment that we suggested. And what we did is the two pani puri stalls, one normal guy, one using gloves and using Bisleri water. I will now tell you a very interesting thing. The line outside the guy with Bisleri was 5 times longer, even though he's charging 2 rupees more, right? Because understand one thing, I'm taking out my kid on the beach. I have if I have no options, if I have everyone's normal pani puri, everyone's 10 rupees, that's what I'm going to get. But oh, I know, hey, if there is a safer option and for 2 rupees my kid can eat safer, I will use those 2 rupees for my kid to eat safer, right? So when people are given a choice at whatever level, whether it's 2 rupees or 200 rupees or 2,000 rupees, depending on where you're eating, people will want to eat safer if they're given the option. I think India is headed in that direction where, as Krishna mentioned earlier, we are doing fantastic work in that space. It's just taking us a little longer because we were 50 years behind or maybe 100 years behind for the rest of the world, but we're catching up very soon. And I'm very, very hopeful to see where we go.
That's pretty interesting, and that's pretty, I would say, uh, uh, encouraging to know that, your thoughts on the same and the kind of positivity with on the direction, because this also defines how I think the food industry would shape up in India. Maybe it'll bring a lot more sanity, a lot more compliance, and a need of a better workforce in that industry also, who's better educated, and again, employment opportunity, education opportunity, the entire as the cycle would run very differently. Great. I think we have overpassed the time. Yeah, you want to say something?
Uh, Jan, I'm so sorry. First of all, thank you so much for having me. You and your entire team, they have been fantastic. I was great to have Krishna as a co-speaker. I really have to run because in another half an hour I have to be in the council, with the council jungle.
Sure.
So I'm going to run. I knew there could be a lot of questions for me which I couldn't answer. I've just dropped my LinkedIn link and my email ID in the chat. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to me. More than happy to help. And this was a real pleasure, guys. But I'm so sorry I need to run. But thank you so much for having me. And Krishna, great seeing you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I'm going to,
thank you very much.
I'm very sure Krishna can answer all the questions. He's an expert who lives and breathes. Very sure. I'm leaving all the audience with great hands. But thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you, Ashwin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ashwin. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, Krishna, we also have come to an end because most of the questions which we received, you already have addressed all those questions. And once again, thank you so much. It was very insightful discussion. And as we were talking, I think this is one subject which is, which wherein one webinar doesn't do any justice. It would need a lot more discussion, and maybe we can think about having more series of webinars on different topics. And to our audience, thank you so much. It's we have overshot the time, but thanks for your patience, and I'm sure this discussion was very insightful. And if you have any further questions, if you want to, you have any opinions, feel free to reach out to us. You can write to us at info@lawbit.com. And with this, I think we'll close our discussion today. Krishna, thank you so much once again, and I look forward to have more interactions with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jan. And yes, it's a need of the hour that we should prepare some kind of capsule models, capsule kind of things, so that, those are delivered with a specific intent and, some insight on actual things which are happening in the industry, so that, the participants may get benefited out of it rather than, reading the regulation, this and that. So I think that should be done going forward. Yes.
But I think this is a very good starting, and let's work towards building some more. And I hope, I look forward to collaborating with you on the future discussions also.
Sure, sir. Sure. I'm always available for to the best of my ability. Not a problem.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have
Thank
a
you,
good
all
day.
the participants. Thank you very much.